Senator Wicker. Senator Warner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree we need to deal with our fiscal issues on both sides. I would simply remind our colleagues that the Senate passed a budget in the spring and has asked 21 times to go to conference. 21 times to go to conference to have a budget in place. And I got to tell you, I really respect your testimony and your restraint. Because if you're not mad as hell, then I don't think you're appropriately expressing at least the way I feel and a whole lot of folks around the country feel. You know, Blakely, I won't say the company. I got called 2 nights ago by a major company in Virginia. Gentleman who built this company over 25 years, 5,500 employees, does a lot of government contracting. 30% of those employees have been laid off as non-essential. The 70% that have been essential still aren't getting paid because the processors of the checks aren't in place. 25 years of work that this company has built could go down the drain in a couple of weeks because they'll go bankrupt if they don't get their payments. I would ask the issue for the record as well in terms of short-term effects of this idiocy. Threat of default, shutdowns, not minority, just short-term interest rates in the last few days. What that is doing to every business in America because of the irresponsible actions that are taking place. I would also say one of the incredible ironies is the House has passed, and I know the Senate and whatever final agreement will pass, that our federal workers will get compensated. If we continue this, Captain Coburn isn't going to get compensated. Your companies aren't going to get compensated. This company isn't going to get fully compensated. The motel owner on Skyline Drive isn't going to get compensated. The remarkable thing is, and the business frustration as somebody who's been a business guy longer than I've been in this job, is that we are going to cost the taxpayer more money because we're going to pay the federal employees, but the starting and stopping, the complete lack of business sense from those who say you can start and stop an enterprise and that doesn't cost more is so divorced from economic reality, it is stunning. We've seen some good signs recently that some may be willing to say, well, maybe America shouldn't default next week. And somehow that's greeted as progress. But what I don't understand is we're going to enter into the negotiations that I think are appropriate, absolutely. Why in the heck would any rational person say and answer Captain Coburn or answer Marion's companies why we should keep the government shut down while we negotiate? And anyone that suggests that let's one-off as we read about a tragedy in the press, whether it's around the parks or around our vets or around death benefits, say we got to read about a tragedy before, let's reopen that part. We have to wait for some child to die because the drug wasn't inspected to reopen the FDA? Or because somebody got bad food to reopen USDA, or God forbid, we read about that tragedy in Tennessee last week. Something else happens and because you didn't get your inspectors out? That is not a responsible way to operate an enterprise like the United States government. I mean, it is beyond the pale of comprehension that anyone would say, keep this government shut down because it might give us a little more leverage. Operate on a one-off basis because when we see something in a tragedy, then maybe we'll say, well, that part ought to be reopened. I would ask any who want to keep the government shut, tell us what parts of the government you want to keep shut. Lay out those items. That ought to be let the American people know what's not an essential. If they're not essential, maybe they should be permanently defunded. But don't do this on a one-off basis. These are just the short-term implications. And I'm not going to get to a question, but Dr. Leshner, you know, we've all heard the term Intel inside. I think what we are doing right now is creating a cancer inside of our enterprise. What's happened in the NSF? What young scientist would join or want to apply to go into this field if you don't have any predictability? The rest of the world's not waiting on America to get its act together. They haven't stopped their research. They haven't stopped their innovation while we do this. I would say, we're going to have to do more.